And we're back with another episode of What the Shell podcast.
What the
Shell?
I do that every time.
But yeah, guys, we're glad to be back today. We have an exciting show for you today. A little bit of a twist from our last episode, and we're pretty excited. We have our guest today. His name is Mr. Ryan McVeigh. Ed, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about him, please?
Dude. So you want me to expand upon this a little bit? So, guys, like this is like a no-brainer. If you're a hobbyist or a breeder or just even love animals, this is something that you don't want to miss because I met Ryan a couple of years ago in the Daytona show, a reptile show, and I tell you what, the most genuine hearted guy as far as in the hobby because he not only just loves animals and keeps animals, but he's there in in the fight for us to have the rights to keep them. This is like
sorry about that.
And I tell you what, man, like from the moment we started talking, like, dude, not only is this dude just like chock full of knowledge, but he also has the heart to back it up. And a lot of people have all this knowledge, but dude, he has the heart to back it up, and it shows in what you're about to find out and like everything he's a part of, and he can and stuff like that. So, I mean,
sorry about that.
And I tell you what, man, like from all right, you good?
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do those watch parties. It's crazy.
It goes live. But yeah, man. So I'm excited for this one. You guys, you definitely don't want to miss this. This is going to be. I know we like to take questions and do all this kind of stuff normally, but I feel like this podcast is very critical and essential for the future of animals and animal rights and being able to keep them because just get a notebook ready and just indulge because you can submit your questions afterwards and we'll highlight some things if we find something good. But guys, just tune your ear into this because I mean I can't get enough. Every time I talk to him, I learn something new. So let's get Ryan on, man.
All right, man. Let's go ahead and bring Ryan on the show. All right, welcome, man.
Guys.
Glad to have you on today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, guys. I think it's fun to kind of get some good information out there. What's going on, Ed? How you doing?
Oh man, dude,
living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Yeah, one day at a time, man.
And I tell you what, man, you have literally the best backdrop of all of us, and so it's like okay, I got a gym, and it's like okay, I thought that was cool, but you got a whole wall of animals, and that just shows everything I just touched upon early on. You bring your work home with you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine not having reptiles. I mean, I've had them since I was 6. I actually don't think there's been a time since I was 6 that I didn't have them.
So,
yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of goes into how we want to start out, man. Like for those of you, people don't know who you are, how you got started, like how you I guess got to be known, but the biggest thing I want to touch upon early on is like how did you realize that this was like more than just like a hobby, but more of a calling because you have transcended just hobby, love, passion. You have definitely wore your heart on your chest when it comes to this and the fight for just animals in general. Like how, and that's a calling, man. So I would just love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I was some nerdy little Wisconsin kid that liked to play with toads. That's how it started with. No, I think I started really loving reptiles. Like, I mean, I've said this before. It's a very unique story. I liked dinosaurs, and then I found snakes, and then I realized that dinosaurs were kind of cool and snakes were cool, and then I liked reptiles, and that's like the standard transition, right? Found garter snake, loved reptiles. Welcome to every U.S.
Now, did your family just like let you just run, outside? Thing, or
like kind of like my mom wasn't a real big fan of the reptiles. My stepdad, when I was a kid, he was a roofer, so he'd bring home all this cool crap all the time, like little tree frogs and walking sticks and stuff that he'd found around like these roofs he was working on, and we go find salamanders. I kept salamanders when I was a little kid. One of my first my 5th grade or 4th grade presentation of like we had to do a how-to video or a how-to presentation. I did how to feed my salamanders worms.
Come on.
Yeah, like it was always, everything was reptiles and amphibians. My first book was back when I was a kid, and yeah, man, it was my like I said, my mom wasn't she wasn't against it, but she wasn't really for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I did a bunch of dumb stuff when I was a kid. I caught a garter snake at recess and snuck it in my backpack when I was in like 6th grade. Wasn't allowed to go on the science outings anymore. Yeah, what's up?
Do you still keep salamanders?
I do and I don't. I on and off I'll keep some cool. I've kept some cool salamander species. The species I want to keep, unfortunately, kind of in regard to what we're going to talk about today, I can't get anymore because so many salamanders were put on the Lacey Act. About 200 different species of salamanders and newts a couple of years ago. So none of them can come into the country anymore. So I really wanted to start working with some of the fire salamanders. Some of those species actually give live birth to two full-grown little baby salamanders, which is unheard of when it comes to amphibians. So yeah, it's really cool.
They were like not even 10 minutes in. I've already learned something.
Fire salamanders are rad. There's so many cool different little niche species, and some of them give birth to larval stage salamanders into water. Some of them just lay eggs. Some of them give. There's one species that gives live birth to little salamanders. Super cool.
No, it was funny that you said your story about the salamanders. I remember when I was growing up, I was a Boy Scout up until about 6th grade. And I went off to camp, and I was up in the mountains in Georgia, if there's mountains in Georgia. And during the day when we weren't doing like Boy Scout activities, I'd go and dig in the creeks, and I'd find what salamanders or what I thought. And I wasn't very successful at keeping them at camp, but I used to keep them in buckets and cups. And people thought I was weird too, man. But I mean, when you're a kid, it's like whatever you can find is what you.
Yeah. We used to run around
turtle.
We used to run around town and like look in people's window wells and pull the salamanders out. They fall into the window wells in their basements. And I mean, you can't do that. Kids don't do that now. It's considered creepy. But it was cool when I was a kid. Like nobody cared. They were just like, it's just Ryan and the boys like digging out toads and salamanders.
Well, that's how my mom
we'd
was like
fill buckets of them.
Staying at home. My dad had me out in the woods, and I never forget the best part experience I've ever had when I was a little kid. I was out in the woods and I picked up this, just piece of wood, and there was literally like hundreds of garter snakes just. It was like an explosion.
I would shit my pants.
Dude, there was a park by my grandparents' park that had tons of garter snakes and stuff. We used to call it the snake park. So I'd, me and my sister would walk like a mile back through this field to get back to this park, and then just go chase garter snakes all day.
So, childhood, obviously, you knew something at some point that you really, like me, I got my degree in wildlife management. I knew at a point that I knew what I wanted to do. So how did that work as far as, age-wise, high school, whatever? I mean,
So nothing in my background has anything to do with animals other than a hobby. I always as a kid wanted to be like a vet or do something like wildlife management or zookeeping or work in some kind of field like that. As I got older, I really got into other math and sciences and ended up going into engineering. And I was nervous that if I worked with animals every day as a career, that I would lose my passion to want to keep them at home because it becomes a job. Yeah, and I've just seen it happen too many times. I know a lot of zookeepers, and they're amazing people. They have huge loves for animals, but the last thing they want to do when they get home after spending every day caring for animals is care for more animals. So, and it's understandable. I didn't want to end up like that. I really wanted it to stay a passion. So I went in a direction and decided I was going to pick something that could fund, that could make some good money, and something that I like doing that would fund my passion for reptiles. So I through high school and stuff, I had like a salamander or a leopard gecko when I was in middle school. That was the only thing I kept until like college. And then I went to the Milwaukee School of Engineering. I got my master's degree in environmental engineering and focused on wastewater treatment plants and groundwater and soil remediation. And then my bachelor's was in HVAC, plumbing and fire protection design. And so I got out of school, worked for an engineering company, a couple engineering companies, sales companies, and kind of got headhunted to end up where I'm at now. When I was in college, I was working at a pet store, and I started using their animals to do outreach and education with kids. Because I had a teacher come in one day and ask, like, hey, do you do like stuff with kids or come into the school? I was like, I can do that. That'd be cool. That'd be fun. So I did it, and just instantly, man, that was it. That's when I was hooked. I loved teaching other people. Getting other people as excited about reptiles as I am is more infectious to me than keeping anything I keep. That was the moment I kind of knew, like, this is what I want to do. I want to teach people about animals. So I did that while I was in school, on and off, just here and there. And then when I graduated, moved to Madison in Wisconsin, I started the Madison Area Herp Society in 2010, and then used that as an avenue to do that, to get out to the community, to do outreach and educational events. And man, we've been doing that for October this year is our 10 years. So
congrats, man. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I have an amazing group of people around me. The members are amazing. They're all passionate about educating the public too. They go above and beyond, even taking off, their own vacation work days to do outreach events. And same thing with my board. We have 3 branches now too. We're one of the only growing herp societies in the country. And it's just crazy. Like, we're still not even close to where I want to be, but we're already one of the more well-known organizations in the U.S. Still, like,
and
not even
I think
close.
The biggest thing is that you're just consistent. A lot of people, they get this fire and they passion, and they start something, and then it kind of just almost feels like it diminishes over time.
It burns you out, man. I can be totally honest. It's burned me out before. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stuff to do, and it's a lot of extra weekends and outreach when I'd rather be out herping myself. Instead, I got to go stand at a fair in the heat for 3 hours and talk to a bunch of kids that are yanking on animals and parents aren't listening.
And you got family and stuff like that too, man.
Oh yeah, I got 3 girls and a wife and tons of animals, and I have way too much going on.
Which leads into the next thing is, like, what all are you actually a part of? I know you touched upon the society.
Oh Jesus!
Come on.
All right,
here's the resume, man.
Come on.
I actually meant to think about this before the call, but I didn't get a chance because I wanted to write it down on the board because I always forget something. Let's see. I'm executive director for the Madison Area Herpetological Society. How did I find you into Daytona? That was the biggest one, right? That's through Zilla. Yep. That's where most people probably know me from. I'm the marketing brand manager for Zilla Reptile Products. I'm the director of husbandry for Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue. I'm on the reptile subcommittee for the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council. I'm a Wisconsin representative for USARK, for the United States Association of Reptile Keepers. I'm on the board of the International Herpetological Symposium. Me and do their auctions for the events. There's more. I think there's more. I don't know. That's off the top of my head, but I'm in some other stuff. I'm on some other boards. I'm gonna get a lot of crap for forgetting, but
you got a lot of name tags, man.
I wear a lot of hats, man.
You probably magnetic name tags. Got to switch them on and off when you go different places.
Pretty much, dude. I have a lot of different name tags I got to switch.
So how did the biggest one obviously that stands out is other than the thing that you've created, which is kind of like your own thing, USARK. So how did that even come about? Because I know that's more of a locality one. That's what most people won't do. Just expand upon what it is first.
Come on. Yeah. So it's super important.
Hey, Ed, is he breaking up for you?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
It's okay.
All right. Yeah, I had a weird thing. But so if you keep reptiles, if you have them, if you love them, if you breed them, if you touch reptiles and amphibians at all and you have a passion for them in a positive light, you should know what you are.
You're breaking up again.
You're breaking up again?
Yeah, man. It might be your Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, it could be. But keep trying to do what I can here. Maybe I'll have to go to a different room here. All right, we're gonna transfer to the couch.
All right, no problem.
Look away from it.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about USARK. I'm probably gonna sound like a complete idiot, but honestly, my knowledge of USARK was: do you want to donate $1 to USARK when you ship your reptiles?
Yeah, so there's way more to it than that. All right, I'm gonna lay down and try and sit down here and try not to just get stared at.
Someone else.
So USARK is the only lobbying organization in the United States that fights in Washington for our freedom and ability to keep reptiles and amphibians in captivity. What most people don't realize, even though you may keep your leopard gecko or turtle or tortoise or anything like that, is there's actually organizations out there that are fighting to make it illegal for you to keep any of the animals you keep. And that would be like animal rights groups. So, and what most people don't understand is animal rights and animal welfare are very different. Animal welfare is something that most of us agree on. We all want animals to be taken care of. The Herp Society is an educational organization that's an animal welfare group. Any local humane society is an animal welfare group. But animal rights are different. Animal rights is saying that our groups believe that no humans should interact with any animals in any way ever. No zoos, no pets, no farms, no conservation, nothing. You never interact with an animal on any ever at all. So their goal is to shut down the pet industry, shut down agriculture and that kind of stuff, and zoos, and make them all go away. And what USARK does is they're our one big organization fighting those groups for us to be able to keep reptiles. And a lot of those animal rights groups, like the Humane Society of the United States, PETA is one that a lot of people are aware of. The Humane Society of the United States is probably the biggest one, and they disguise themselves under the name Humane Society, even though they have absolutely nothing to do with humane societies. They don't run a humane society. They don't have one. And they do nothing to do with rescuing animals. They're a lobbying group. But they raise...
So that's not like the SPCA that you see in commercials?
No. And like your local humane societies, like where you can go adopt a puppy and things like that, the Humane Society of the United States has nothing to do with them. They named themselves that because of that. It gives you a false understanding of what they are, and you start to believe that they would be like... People believe that they're an umbrella organization for humane societies because that's what they're the Humane Society of the United States sounds like an umbrella corporate, or an umbrella nonprofit for humane societies. All of their commercials and advertisements are about helping animals, but almost none of that money actually goes to helping animals. Like something like 2% of the money they get actually goes to humane societies. Majority of it is to pay for lawyers and lobbyists.
So just to expand upon this, I mean, not even just expand, but people love numbers. Okay, so we're up against things that people know about, like PETA and stuff. So give an example of where we're at and actually what we're up against figuratively, number-wise, even.
Absolutely. So this is, don't get depressed. This is a very David and Goliath.
But it's real, thing. Man. This is real. Come on, man.
But it is real. The USARK, being our only group, our lobbying group, their budget in the last few years roughly was about $500,000 a year. HSUS alone, not including PETA, Defenders of Wildlife, and all these other organizations, HSUS alone has a yearly budget of $200 million. So 400 times bigger than USARK. That doesn't mean that we can't fight them, though. And actually, yeah. So, but like, actually, we HSUS regularly. But it takes a lot to do it. It takes a lot of lawyers, a lot of funding, and a lot of work. Honest about it is USARK really.
There you go.
I don't know.
You there? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. He's going into.
All right, I got nothing. That's where else I. The only.
Hey, yeah, we can't hear you, dude.
Yeah, he kind of broke up.
I don't know why. Our internet's working out now, so I don't know what's going on. But it keeps
jumping out the gym.
Yeah, weird. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can post some other stuff.
While we're waiting, I'll go ahead and show some comments.
Love it.
Shout out to my cousin Sharon.
You're at the house. You're watching.
That's my big cousin.
Yo.
Not sure who this is, but happy weekend to you too.
Yo. It's Friday, yo. So Cody, man.
Yeah.
What do you think about that number, like that he put out there? Like just one group alone, like you're talking about $500,000 to $200,000, just like that. I mean,
I don't know. It feels like while we wait for him to get back on, it feels like we should find a fundraiser, man. We need to do something to contribute.
Yeah.
Like I'm all about conservation, but I'm also about keeping my animals, I don't think $1 every time I ship your reptiles is really making a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and that's how when I was talking to Ryan, I put in perspective. I mean, how many people, especially some of the breeders that are, really into the hobby, more so one animal sold or, whatever, rehomed could, if you set aside some, it can make a huge world of difference,
No. I mean, he said it was what did he say? $500,000 is their budget?
Yeah.
Let's see. And let's
bring in the other me.
Yeah.
All right, we got you.
Hey, good thing I got 18 computers. All right, there, better, good.
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry about that. So back to USARK. So USARK, again, is the only organization in the United States that lobbies in Washington, works at the state level, not as much at the local level, but mostly at the state level and federal level to fight bans and legislation that's anti-reptile, anti-pet. And the organizations we're fighting are 400, 500, 1,000 times bigger than USARK when it comes to funding. The lawyers that they have on hand, I mean, it really is like David and Goliath, and we are really going up against something big. The biggest problem that we run into as a community isn't that USARK's the only one or that all these other organizations are so much bigger. The real thing that we run into that's a problem for us is that not enough people understand that USARK is an essential part of what we do. With bills and legislation that end up out in Congress, in the Senate, House of Representatives that end up going through the state, there's stuff right now that if it goes through could stop every reptile show in the country. I mean, it could shut down every pet store in the country. It would make it so every breeder that's watching this can't ship across state lines any animal at all. It's insane. And without USARK watching that and groups like the PJAC working with them, there'd be nobody to stop them from doing this, and it would be bad. So
how it almost boggles my mind that something so big and critical almost gets watered down, back burner, like almost like they don't want you to know who they are or that there even is something that exists like that. Because as far as you're concerned, PETA and all these other ones, they're the good guy.
Yeah. So, and for most people, that's the feeling. You watch the commercial, you see, there we go. You see the puppy and how they're going to save these dogs, and all this bad stuff, and then you feel bad, and we all do. You should.
It's an emotional level, man.
Yeah, any animal that's being neglected or needs help, we should all want to help. I mean, that's.
If you're gonna have a turtle and a lizard, just kind of like, it's like
right. Well, and the thing is, they mostly go after dogs and cats because that's where most people's heart is. But what they don't realize is when you give that $20 a month or $5 a month or whatever to HSUS or PETA, they're using that money to lobby to take away pets and zoos, and
come on,
it's insane. So they tell you, help this puppy. Help this puppy in this cage. He's sad and he needs friends, and we need to save him. And the puppy doesn't really exist, and then they take that money and they use it to lobby in Washington to take away your puppy.
So now you donated money for your dog to possibly get taken away.
Pretty much. I mean, it's not as black and white as that. Nobody's going to kick down your door and take your animals. But
right,
that's they're like things like adopt, don't shop. Like, it's a good thought. There are laws that HSUS and has tried to push through Congress and through states, especially at the state level, where the only animals available at pet stores have to be adoptions from humane societies. Most of us are behind that. I mean, that makes sense. I want to find homes for animals that already need homes rather than creating more and perpetuating that problem of homeless animals.
Yeah.
The problem with that is if we did that in every single state where the only way you could get animals, nobody could breed them breed dogs anymore, and you could only adopt them. If you're not breeding them anymore, at some point that runs out, and there's no more animals to adopt. And when there's no more animals to adopt, and the laws say that the breeders can't do it anymore, then there's no more animals, and eventually the pets are gone. That's what the main goal of laws like that is. But it's hidden underneath this really heartfelt, good, positive feeling, without being able to see what that impact is down the road.
That's good. So, I mean, you throw out the numbers and all that stuff, but like, not to say, like you said, we have a fight, but like this long, how have we actually been able to keep our head above water?
Really aggressive, smart tactics. The reptile community especially is really good at using logic and numbers. We have a lot of statistics and facts that are actually on our side. They use emotions. And when it comes to state level and fighting in legislature and stuff like that, emotion is what helps drive their campaigns. When it comes to like federal court lawsuits, like the stuff that USARK did for the big snakes, emotions aren't as helpful. They get people to support an idea. And we've been pretty good about getting better information out there, better facts, better resources for people that really show the incorrections and what they're putting out there and the reality of what it really looks like.
Yeah.
And luckily, the reptile community has gotten a lot better about showing kids, showing the emotion of these pets, showing how reptiles aren't just for, tattooed bikers and people with mohawks. It's a family thing now. They're a family pet. They're an animal that people love just like they would a dog or a cat. And changes in society and things like that have made it a little bit easier for us. But really, it's just being aware. It's really just being aware of our surroundings, being aware of what's happening, and trying to organize as best we can.
Yeah, so I mean, I know we touched upon it yesterday when we talked personally. You touched upon even like our podcast is not just about turtles, but let's just start with turtles, and then we can make our way to like constrictors and stuff like that. Like, because I really want people to actually get a personal feel for if they have this animal, they have this or this or this. Like what do they, as far as more detail, working with and dealing with, man? Like,
so when it comes to like the laws and things like that, when it comes to a lot of these, and I think that's what you're talking about, like just the different laws and things that come up.
I mean,
so it's always kind of big the big snake guys that usually are the ones in the trenches, because that's the target. Crocodilians, venomous snakes, and large constrictors are always the ones that are targeted. But that's not always the case. And the problem is that as a community, we can get together and do some insanely amazing things. I've run 2 charity auctions in the last 2 months that raised over $100,000 for people, like for 2 people in the reptile community, one person that passed away and another person that was in the hospital. And that's incredible. That's incredible. At the same time, to raise that much in 2 months to help donate to USARK, it would be an insane feat to try and actually do. Just because, people don't see it as much. They're not as emotionally connected. But we should be. And what happens a lot of times when these laws come up, so we all get together and we can do some amazing things and raise money for things. We're there for each other. We're an amazing community of family and people and good friends. But the problem is we start when these laws come up and it starts to get a little rocky or a little scary, we all start to kind of clump down into our own cliques. And then you've got the gecko people, the colubrid people, the big snake people, the turtle people. And everybody is like, well, the constrictor guys are the only ones getting their butt handed to them. So they're not coming after us. It's not worth worrying about right now. And they don't get support. The big constrictor guys are drowning.
No condemnation, but
so we work really well as states, but not as a country together. And that's where it starts to become a problem. And that's because what they don't realize is, okay, so big constrictors get taken out. That may not affect you if you don't keep them, but it does. You don't think it does. It doesn't affect you keeping them, but it's one more step in the direction towards getting to what you keep. It's not going to stop. This isn't a thing where like HSUS and PETA win and they get constrictors banned, and then they're just like, good job, guys. Now we can just shut down and never work again. No, this is every day in every municipality, county, state, country level, all the time. They are always working on something. They're always trying. There's a ton of bills that were going around last year to stop traveling educational exhibits.
I saw that about crap.
Yeah,
man.
Well, it's the thing. Like, it was to the point where it was trying to. They put it under the guise of, look, we're gonna stop the abuse of circuses. But in the language, the way it was written, you couldn't take your turtle to your kid's class for show and tell.
Yeah, come on.
Like, way different than an elephant at a circus. But the way it was written, it would do that.
Yeah, but people hit that emotional level first, and they see all the beating and all that stuff. But Dumbo, that's all they see, and they don't need to see anything else. Shut up.
And they don't realize the other thing too is a lot of times I've actually talked to senators, especially like. People in Wisconsin, I've been up at the state a lot, and I've talked to them about bills they sponsored that were anti-pet that they didn't realize the effect of what it would do. They actually, one congressman or representative actually had HSUS. After I talked to him, he was the sponsor for the bill, and it was going to ban all crocodilians. One of his good friends had an alligator, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, you realize what you're doing is going to make him have to get rid of it. And euthanize it. And then I started talking about what this ban really did, what the verbiage was, how it could actually be enacted. And then he realized that what he thought was he was trying to stop idiots from getting a baboon and putting it in their bathroom, which also has happened. So crazy stuff happens, but they're trying to stop those extreme idiots from doing stuff and not realizing the effect that that'll have on everything. Based on how it's worded. And once I kind of got him to understand how it was going to work, how this was going to work, if it went through, he dropped his support and he let the bill die, and then he banned HSUS from coming in to meet with him anymore. So he took out everything they wanted. He took out crocodilians. He added the ZAA back into it. He did a whole bunch of stuff to just undo anything they wanted. And then so they didn't support it anymore. And then he just let it die.
Well, and see, like, dude, that almost goes right back to the root of why we even got into this. It was the educational part, the simple educational part. Because I know back in my college, I went for wildlife, so that was part of our thing. We did raptors and reptiles and presentations, and people coming in from college and seeing the college. Then they see a big constrictor and a barred owl or something. They're like, it's instant, like, laser sight. What is that? But like seeing people's reaction and I can't tell you how many times just a little bit of education, just a little bit of knowledge. Even, dude, I've worked as a little bit of wildlife biologist, and the moment trapping and stuff, when people realize, even if it's and I'm going as simple as a rat, and I tell people like, you realize that this is their habitat up here and they live here. I mean, just educate them a little bit, and they're like, oh, okay. I mean, they might not love them. I don't expect you to love every animal, but at least you can have a sense of appreciation, and that's all you really need.
Absolutely. Well, that's the big thing too, and this is something I can't stress enough. When there's legislation in your state, county, city that is anti-pet, 99% of the time it has the person sponsoring it and putting it out there doesn't understand what the depth of what this could do, and they didn't write it. It was written by an animal rights group, shown to them with a whole bunch of pictures of lions half dead in cages on the side of roadside zoos from the 80s that don't happen anymore. Once in a while they do exist, but they get shut down quick. But they show them the worst, craziest crap, tell them that this is the reality of everything that's out there. Those people don't know any different, and anybody seeing that would go, "Oh my God, I don't want to see that." Yeah. So it's a heart reaction to say, "I don't want to see that. I want to stop this." So that's what they feel they're doing. They don't understand our side because they don't know. Yeah. And if I was in a position like that and somebody came up to me and said, "I don't know if you know this, but NASCAR kills babies," like, I don't know anything about NASCAR, so I would just be like, "Oh my God, we should stop. I've shut down NASCAR right now. They're killing babies." Like, I'm not going to be able to argue that. Well, and that's the position they're in. So they're not coming out at us and being like, "We're taking your animals." Yeah. They're not knowledgeable on the topic. And that's where we come in, is our opportunity to go in, sit in front of them, and give them the side of information that they need to understand both sides. And we have to realize that what they're being fed when they're supporting that, not all the time, but most of the time, what they're being fed, especially on local levels, is a packet full of lies about how the reptiles are killing everyone. Yeah. Lions and bears are rampant in people's houses.
Yeah, I mean, you get down here in Florida, you get it all the time. A constrictor is in the hood of a car, and then a lady gets strangled, or the baby. I mean, it's like,
yep.
I mean,
and they use that kind of stuff anytime it's even been like, there's stuff I've seen from there.
I'm not diminishing the fact of that, but it's like people that should own animals the right and know how to, and especially even, what to do when you're encountered by one. Because if you reach for a constrictor that's coiled around, I mean, constrictor, and you don't even know what it is. You think it's a Burmese python that just sits on the ground. Well, you're in for a rude awakening because it's an animal. I mean,
yeah. So really, it just kind of comes down to, it's our opportunity to educate those people, to give those people our side, to help them understand what's happening and what this bill would do.
I think that you were on a podcast with Animals at Home, I think.
Yep.
You touched upon that as far as the key thing that you found out was that you don't go into them thinking that they are the enemy, but you go into it as like just share.
Right. Yeah. So too many people go into those meetings, those open town halls in cities and things like that, guns blazing. You're trying to take our animals over my dead body. It's all or nothing. And they immediately get hit with, "You're insane. I don't want to talk to you."
Exactly.
Like Joe Exotic.
Basically, right? Like, people you can't go in like that. You have to go in understanding there's a gap in their knowledge, and it's your job to fill it. And in a way that is respectful, concise, and clear. And that's what we do, is we end up going in, we talk to them about what these bills do, how people keep animals, the number of people that keep these animals, how we can better manage things with best management practices rather than an all-out ban, or licensing and things like that, where if they have worries, but in reality, the risks are minuscule to zero for most of these animals.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, like how you're talking about. So what kind of things you're talking about the emotional level, I mean, and things that might be more public knowledge, like, you're talking about like turtles with salmonella, and it's like, if you don't wash your hands, like, you're going to get it like immediately, those kind of things, like those kind of things, those are those nerves that they're trying to hit with people.
Oh yeah, and they absolutely use that stuff. They use every time a kid gets salmonella. They use every time there's an outbreak from a pet store. They use a lot of this. I've actually gone through a lot of their sources because I've gotten those packets when I go to those things, half of it is newspaper clippings of like a guy who's like, I saw a snake. It was 20 feet long. No pictures, no evidence, no nothing. It's just last time that happened in Wisconsin that somebody said there was a 20-foot snake, it was a 5-foot bull snake. We found it. It was a 5-foot bull snake and it was native. But people thought there was a reticulated python loose in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. So we're like, but that's the thing that happens. I got a message today about somebody who thinks they saw a coral snake on their property up north. I'm like, I don't think you saw what you think you did, but you may have jumped or reacted. But so there's a lot of things like that. But then it ends up in the news that Jim Bob found a coral snake. There's no picture or proof. He just says he saw one. Yeah. And then they use that as evidence that there's loose reptiles all over the place.
Yeah. And
there was a guy about 30 minutes south of me. I want to say it was probably 5 or less years ago. And he had a cobra that escaped. And people were going nuts for like at least a solid year. And then people finally came out and said, hey, the cobra did get loose, but the cobra's probably dead. Like the winters here, like it probably flew that thing. Like, I mean,
that's the nice thing about being up where I'm at is there's literally no exotic pet in my house that can get outside and live past October. So unfortunately, Florida, Texas, Georgia, things like that, there's some stuff that can live, but you know, it's a lot less. Like they also push the narrative that people are letting their pets go. Like there's also hurricanes. Like there's other stuff in Florida that gets animals out, like hurricanes. Way more likely to be the case. Now, do people let their animals go? Yeah, there's douchebags that do that all the time.
I think more people let dogs and cats go than freaking.
Oh yeah, I mean, feral hogs, dogs, cats, that kind of stuff is way more of a problem. But to go, especially as a wildlife biologist, you understand like cats are the worst thing on the planet. They're the end of all living things. They're Satan incarnate. They're the worst thing ever.
Dude, I can tell you, almost every other animal like almost a woman get like, I don't want to go there, but like outside, and it's like, God, like it's like they are just.
Hey, I'm curious, Ryan, why you say that? Like, is it just personal belief or like?
Personally, I also don't like cats, but cats are one of the few predators in the world that will kill for fun, and for sport. So they'll kill up to a dozen things a day. Now, here in Florida is a good example. Let's balance out the Burmese python argument here. Burmese pythons will eat once a month in the wild at most, generally once a month at most. They'll maybe eat twice, but that would be like he would have to be a real fat, real healthy, and crazy population of food area to eat twice a month. A lot of them are eating 3 to 4 times a year. Cats are killing 10 things a day. There's 20 million cats. There's maybe 200,000 Burms. 20 million cats times 10 things a day is 200 million dead animals a day.
So wait, 200 million. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so like that's why. Like, yeah, right. It lines up. It's let's get some conspiracy theory here, right? Like, cats are HSUS. But that's the reality of it. So, but it's a lot harder to go out and be like, everyone that has your furry little kitty that you love, it's the devil. Like, it's a horrible animal that's killing everything. You can't do that. People are.
Hey, I gotta show this comment. This is funny, guys.
Yeah, they actually do, luckily, but there aren't enough Burms to take care of the feral cat population. That's what we just need. We need more Burms to eat more cats. But it doesn't. Well, honestly, though, in Florida, nothing's native anymore.
Well, and honestly, dude, like, I kind of want. This is a couple of minutes ago. I had the question and you're going back to people that don't know, so you see it a lot now on social media. They'll post on some of the reptile groups like, "What is this? I found this on the side of the road," and people, God forbid, it is, don't touch that, go for tortoise or something that's native that, endangered or whatever. Okay. That's
box turtles.
So they don't know, but they post and immediately you get backlash. I mean, dude, and then the
wild animal.
I mean,
go in the direction it was crossing.
They're almost looking for a way to just, vomit, and it's like, dude, that diminishes that person that they don't ever want to touch an animal again. Like, there is a better way to do this than what we are doing right now, and it shows in society just as clear as day.
Yeah, so I mean, really, it kind of comes around to everything, but that's just social media, dude. You can I can put up a picture of my daughter sniffing a flower, and people would find something.
I hope that's not poppy seeds.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, she must be growing heroin. Like that's a lily, and her name's Lily. Well, she's gonna snort it. There's something wrong. She's killing people. Okay, you take it with a grain of salt, but yeah, no, that is something that the reptile community is also not the best at, is education. So you get a lot of people who are like in these groups that are like, I just got this box turtle. I knew it was abused by somebody, or my friend had it and couldn't keep it anymore, and I don't think they're keeping it right. And I want to set it up right, but I don't know what to do. What do I do?
Yeah.
And the first comments are, you shouldn't have it if you don't know. What the hell's wrong with you? Everything you're doing is wrong. And I just want to bring up the fact that, like, I have so much reptile knowledge, I forget my kids' names. Like there's only so much space up here, and there's a lot of it's in stupid, worthless reptile facts. But at the same time, I wasn't born with that knowledge. Like, I didn't just come out, get spanked, cry, and just be like, I love dendrobatids. Like, that's not how it worked. So I had to learn over an experience, a long period of time, and learning and reading, and to have the knowledge I have. And every reptile keeper has that. You've had experience, you've learned, you've listened to people, you've read care sheets and books and watched videos, and you soak up all that knowledge. And then you get somebody who's coming in who's like, I wanted to do the right thing, I want to learn, and they just get trashed by the people who have done the learning, instead of directed on the right path of where to find the knowledge so that they can take the same path that we did, so that they can learn. And what ends up happening is that person gets so turned off, they walk away and stop asking for help.
Yeah.
Now that, who knows what happened to that animal, or if it made it? Who knows if they got the right information anymore? That animal could be dead because you refused
and even worse, and I would bet, I don't bet, but I would bet that most of those people could turn out to be the ones that are against it in the end.
Honestly, I wish that was the case. I honestly just think it's more egos and people that need to get off their high horse because they're douches. And just realize not everybody knows everything, and that's not wrong. If you talk to someone and you're trying to help them over like a year get their animals in better condition, they refuse to listen to you and crap just dies in a cesspool, that's wrong. You absolutely call them out, and that's wrong. If they're coming to you for knowledge and they're looking to get better and do better, that is a super cool opportunity for us as the people who have that knowledge to build somebody else up into being an amazing keeper, to being somebody that we're excited to talk about. Like, there are kids all over the country that I've been able to meet through doing all these shows that just blow me away. And they're so knowledgeable. Like, dude, there's a kid in the Herp Society in Milwaukee. We did a trivia night. He beat everyone. He's 12. He beat everyone in the Herp biologists in the Herp Society.
Really? What?
My wife went through the trivia with me, and we went through this program. She saw all the answers, and he beat her. Like, I mean, this kid's awesome, and he's all he wants to. He teaches his little sister about it, but like these kids like that, being able to be one of the people that's helping them gather that knowledge and answer questions is awesome. It's so cool. It's so cool to see these kids, and I'm like, you're gonna turn into a nerd like me. I love it, But like, if the first thing you do, if he would have come up to me and been like, hey, I have a leopard gecko and I keep it on sand and this is my setup, and I went, you piece of crap, you're gonna kill it, get rid of it. You should have animals. Yeah. You should just go away. Like, he wouldn't be that kid then. Yeah. And you'd just be trashing someone's dreams. If someone did that to us when we were little, that would have just crushed us. But then we do it to people because we're arrogant, egotistical pricks. And people need to stop doing that and just be excited for someone else that's looking for knowledge and asking the questions. The fact that they're asking in the first place is already a reason I want to talk to you.
Yep.
I want to talk to you, and I want to chat because I know you want to do the right thing and you're interested in talking about it.
Dude, you spent in the middle of hundreds of people in Daytona show, you spent like half an hour, if not more, with me and my wife. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, like I thought almost like I was like, I'm not even anyone special, but dude, you actually, but you weren't even just like most people, just like kind of like, just get on with it kind of thing. But you were. That's why I said in the beginning, I was like, dude, you wear your heart on your sleeve as far as how much you love it and what you do to promote it. Like you just, and that comes from a real genuine, area that we all need to make sure that aspect that what got us into it from that early childlike, just almost stay like that childlike heart.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever lose that, then I mean, you're like you said,
It's sad, man. And people, you just got to remember, like, dude, everybody is like, I've bred and kept some of the craziest crap that maybe 3 people in the world ever had in captivity. I've dealt with animals that I couldn't even find a picture to show you of. But at the same time, like, people are like, "Oh, you're Ryan. Oh my God, I've seen you on videos." And I'm like, "Dude, settle down. I'm just I'm a dude that likes to play with toads, and I think reptiles are neat." Like, I try really hard to never have an ego or get a big head about it, because I still don't think anything I'm doing is that important. I think there's way cooler people out there, and all I want to do is share my knowledge, because I could be walking outside tomorrow, get hit by a bus, and everything I've learned and done in my life goes with me. So if I don't spend that time giving that knowledge and information to other people, then I'm being selfish and it dies with me, and I'm not okay with it.
And that's exactly why, I'm thankful, Cody, and, this is even an opportunity to be able to do stuff like this. I don't think enough people are even doing enough because they're afraid of what people might say about them for going out on a limb and just talk about your passion. Because I tell you what, man, just like it took me years to, a year and a half to do my book, and I'm starting my second one, those things that, when a child like is able to actually interact and learn and engage, like those, I can have all that stuff in my head right now, but if I don't have some kind of concrete, like just something to give, and not even like an object, but a person. I mean, you're talking about generations, not just one person, generations. So that's so critical, man. And
that's what it's about, dude. It's about sharing and getting excited and getting other people excited. And you know what? Like, I can be being totally honest. It was 2 years ago. So Bill Stewart works with me at Zilla. He's a good friend of mine, has been for a long time. He's the president of the Milwaukee branch of the Herp Society. And he came to me one day. He had signed up to do this library event with a bunch of kids. And he came upstairs to my office, and he's like, "Dude, I'm beat. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept for like 2 days. I had a really rough week." I knew he did. There's a lot of stuff going on. He's like, I can't do it. I'm like, "Well, one, I love you. You're my best friend and brother. But you told me you're doing it, and you're not backing out the day of, or I'll kill you." And 2, I'm like, you know this. It's hard because you're tired, but you know that when you go, you're going to get amped up and fueled by these kids. It's an exhausting thing to do. It's tiring for me to go to these shows and talk to people for 12 or 14 hours or 16 hours, or then go to the bar and then talk to people all night and then get up in the morning and do it all again. But at the same time, it's so fulfilling to educate kids, get them excited. Like, you bring a kid into the booth, man, I'll sit down and ignore anyone. Phil from USARK can come talk to me. I'll be like, "Shut up, this kid's more important than you. Go away." Like that's the fun part, man. And getting these kids to get excited and being able to share your passion. Like, I can't talk reptiles without getting all excited and loud, just because, like, I love it. I love all of it. Like, I crapped on 4 times today. I'm just like, cool. Poop. Like, I love this animal. Like, it doesn't matter. It's all about how, like, just the fun of it and just being able to share that. That's where I found my passion and my calling, was being able to share it. I love keeping animals. I love breeding some of these species. Me and Erica picked a bunch of species that are super insanely hard to breed and very rarely either haven't been bred yet or very few people have. So, like, if we go 2, 3, 5 years without breeding anything, doesn't hurt me any. I love them anyway. But my passion and drive for this is getting out and educating the community, helping people be more successful in keeping these animals. And I want every little kid to be crazy like me. That's all I want. That's my goal.
Hey, Ryan, let me ask you a question. Have you done any, like, virtual presentations to kids now that, like, schools are virtual?
So I haven't done any of those, but the Herp Society is doing virtual like live streams. Actually, I think maybe right now or earlier today, they live streamed up at M Toxins in Oshkosh, which is one of 3 venom labs in the country. So they live streamed their grand opening today. And we actually help support those guys. They're good friends of ours, and we're doing a lot of education with them. And then we did last week, I live streamed with a friend of mine, Sam Fellows, who's been doing work in California for his he's working on his doctorate in herpetology right now, but he's been studying sidewinder rattlesnakes, and it's really cool. Like every time I go out to California for work, I see him, we go road cruise all night, and we just talk, and we talk about his projects and stuff. And so we had him talk, and we're going to continue to kind of do live talks with people, kind of like what we're doing here, little interviews with people and live streams as we go to unique things. So we're still trying to stay interactive, but I personally haven't done any live stream educational things. And I like the idea of it, and I love that people are doing that to keep people interacting. It's because it's the best we can do right now, but I definitely miss that physical interaction between a kid and an animal. Looking at it is awesome. Asking questions live is awesome. It's great that people are doing that, but that touch, that physical contact is a massive piece of people caring for them.
And dude, and I don't know why this is kind of a personal thing that hit home for me. I have a teacher. I have my watch party on. And I have one of my old teachers at in my wildlife school that commented. He said, we need guys like you in Southeast Ohio, or at least to help me get started. We lost. Was it last year? We lost the guy that actually did my reptiles and ran a nature center. And this guy at home, you go to his home and he has 18-foot Burmese and just things that in snakes he's had for 30 years. I'd say he's lost his life, but when bills passed and I don't know if it was just more of a country, but I know it hit Ohio. He lost his snakes.
Yeah.
He lost because not only was he not able to transport them to find a home, he was dead in the water, and he's had these snakes for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So now, and I I'll speculate all I want, but you have your animal and you spend that time, and something gets taken away from you like that for no reason, and then you're handicapped to even do anything about it to try to help. At least, okay, well, I'm going to take him away. How can I find a good home? And then there is no good home. There is no home. I mean, there is nothing. And sadly, he's going to be missed because he's not around anymore. And that was a very critical aspect in his life that he lost.
Yeah.
And, dude, that's just a hard thing for me because I wanted to share people because I bawled. I cried because this dude had so much influence in my life to where I'm at now, more hands-on education, knowledge, and for that to be taken away, and then, losing his life. And it was like,
yeah, I've seen so many times where people lose their collections because of stuff because of laws. They aren't able to get more animals. They aren't, or they just lose their stuff. They just lose their animals in their collection, and it's crazy. And it's heartbreaking. And I know people who have been pushed out of the city they've lived in their whole life. It was either get rid of your animals that you've been breeding for 20 years or kept your whole life, or leave town. Like that was your options. Either get rid of your animals or live somewhere where you could have them. And it's heartbreaking to watch that kind of stuff. I'm glad I've been in a situation similar, and it sucks, man. It's infuriating, and it just kills you.
And that's kind of one thing I definitely wanted to, not to end off, but one big topic that we can expand upon now to really close it is that kind of aspect of how real raw. We've discussed the battle. We've discussed all the ins and outs, numbers, figures. Okay, So how could someone, whether it's someone that's involved as much as you are, or the person that has one turtle or a salamander or a snake, feel like they can actually make a difference in this matter, as far as whether it's teaming up with USARK or and most people I know, we don't want to talk money and donations. Well, dude, in reality, you talk figures, you talk numbers, and I know you put a statistic out there, a couple weeks or a week ago or something about $5 a month or something. And everyone that owns an animal, how big of an even impact that could even make as far as ammunition and fuel for this fight? Like, where does that money go specifically? I mean, give it all the ins and outs, bro.
So here's the deal. So when you donate money to the people against us, let's start there, like HSUS, 2% of that goes to animals. The rest of it goes to lobbying and fundraising campaigns and letter writing campaigns and all the junk mail people get and all of that. Over 90% goes to that. I mean, they actually have bank accounts in the Caribbean. Like, what humane society that helps animals has bank accounts in the Caribbean? They don't, because that's not what they are. They're a fundraising giant that uses their money to steal your animals, basically. But when it comes to USARK, all of the money goes to paying attorneys and work and Phil's salary to work with Phil, who's really the only person. Let me also make that clear. HSUS is a giant corporation that has people in every state in the country. USARK is one dude in Indiana, one dude that flies to every state for every hearing and fights every day. It is insane what he's going through. And I know Phil really well, and I love him to death, and I wouldn't put his responsibilities on anyone. It's what he does. He is an amazing person in our community, and anybody that ever meets him should do nothing short of give him a hug and shake his hand. Because the reason you have your pets is that guy. Now, the other people involved, because it's mostly him,
what's his last name again?
Phil Goss.
Yeah.
Phil Goss. So he's the president of USARK. There's a board. They help with some things and managing things, but they're not the ones on the ground fighting. And then they have some lobbyists and attorneys that they work with. Like when it comes to the federal lawsuit that they did, obviously it's a lawsuit. They have to have attorneys. But that money you're using all goes directly to fighting against animal bans and anti-pet legislation. There is no letter campaigns. There is no frivolous spending. Phil doesn't make a lot of money and get some huge bonus every year. I know that. Like, he's a solid guy, and he's somebody who, like, he will literally, to save money for USARK, to make sure that every penny is going to the best place it can. He's slept in cars. He's slept on people's couches instead of getting hotels, so that he can save every penny he can and make sure that the money is being used to the best of his ability to fight these things. That's insane. Like, there's no other people like him who are going to be away from home, out of state, and not even sleep in like a Motel 8. Like, just crash on someone's couch so he doesn't have to spend that $40 or $50 a night. I mean, that's the kind of person Phil is, and he's the savior of the reptile community. To be honest, to me, that's who I see him as. But the thing is, there's a couple things we can do to help. One is be aware, pay attention to what's going on in your state, pay attention to what's going on in your community, and alert USARK and Phil when things pop up. Most of the time they see it and they're aware of it. But there's a lot of every time I fought bills in Wisconsin, I have never done it alone without talking to Phil, without talking to some of the people that work with him, and kind of understanding the laws, making sure there's no loopholes, making sure that what we're going to present back to the state is concise and accurate and factual, and that we have backup for everything we're going to say. And then I take that and present it in an emotional way in order to show that these facts affect people on a regular basis and affect my heart, how I feel about my animals and my family, not just this cool thing I have. But I use USARK and Phil to do that. I bounce stuff off them and we work together. And that's what you need to do is when you're in a state where something's coming up. Well, here, like while we're talking, I'll pop up. You can pop up the USARK website, USARK.org. Sorry, I'm doing that right now.
USARK.org.
Right now, there's an alert in Alabama. If you live in Alabama, they're looking to ban a ton of different animals, including tagus, anything that's on the Lacey Act, which would also be all big snakes. That's up in Alabama right now. There's stuff on the federal level, which scares the crap out of me that we need to talk about, but it's one of the reasons we're on here. But there's stuff about rattlesnake conservation, stuff in Arkansas, stuff all over the country. There's things going on, and USARK is the one that's finding these and alerting us. So that's one thing you can do is kind of be alert, be aware, and get involved. If there's a call, if USARK says, "Hey, we need you to sign this letter," sign the freaking letter. If they need you to like reach out to your congressman and write a letter to them about what it means to you and how this bill would affect you, do it. Like, you want to show up at the day that the hearing is, bring your kids. Like, you want to see a bunch of people that turn their decision or change their mind. Have kids come in and tell them what reptiles mean to them and why this is important, why these animals are important. There's nobody who can look at one. My daughters are adorable. I hate it. I wish they, not be so adorable. It screws me all the time. But I also use that because I use them for pictures and promoting kids in education because they're super cute. And you can't look at one of my girls and not feel like an idiot if they are holding a snake and you're afraid. So I bring kids to stuff, because this is the people. These are the kids. These are the people who you're destroying their future and their passion. But they don't see that. And until you put that in front of them, they're not going to know. But so being involved, understanding that when there's a call to action, step up. Most of the time, it means you need to take 10 to 15 minutes on your computer and write a letter and then hit send. That's it.
You're going to be
That's all it is. Yeah, like anybody who's like, oh, I've been trying to get to it. I get a little red and just stabby. And I hold it in. It's probably why I don't sleep. And that's why I don't sleep. I'm just fueled by internal anger. But that's where, like, it's 10 minutes to save your freaking animals. Like, yeah. If you're not willing to do that, then stop keeping pets. Because if that's not enough, if that's too much for you, then you just don't deserve to keep them. And I know that's harsh, but if you're not even willing to write a 10-minute email to save your pets, then you really don't care about them that much. And that's it. So that's one way you can get involved, is watch what's happening when there's a call from USARK. Make sure you're doing what they're asking, writing a letter, or at least being aware of it. Pay attention to local laws. And if in your town, every city everyone lives in generally has board meetings. You can actually sign up to get the agendas of the board meetings emailed to you, where you can get an email a week or two in advance and you'll know what's going to be discussed. If you take a look through it every time once in a while, you might catch that there's an exotic animal legislation in there. And then once you catch it, you can start to gather people together locally, talk to your local herp society, talk to people that keep reptiles. Reach out to me. If you don't know what to do, and call me, reach out to me. I'm everywhere. If you Google my name, I'm pretty sure you can see me talking to you guys from satellite somewhere. Like, I'm not a hard guy to find. And everybody's welcome to reach out to me at any point. But me or Phil or anybody else that can start to point you in the right direction to what to do.
So you can actually sign up and subscribe to the email, and you can get that's the easiest first step that you can do, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you can do Google thing. You can do the thing. I'd have to look into it because Eric Roscoe is our event coordinator for Madison for the Herp Society. He's been around with me for almost 10 years. And the dude, he's found bills that were in Wisconsin before the committee that was going to hear about it knew it was coming. We knew it was coming before the committee did. It's crazy, man. He'll go into Google and he's got anytime any news article pops up that says exotic or reptile, it sends him a notification. He's watching all these RSS feeds and things. So we're on top of it. And there's ways to do that. You can also check out madisonherps.org, which is the Herp Society's website. Eric actually wrote an article on what to do to watch for legislation in your area. How do you do that? So that's a great guide that everybody should check out. And just once, you're on your phone 24 hours a day, make 2 minutes of it be checking if someone's trying to destroy your life. I feel like that's a valid 2 minutes to spend, So one is be aware, get involved. When you need to, get up. Don't be a keyboard warrior. Get up and do something. If you're too lazy to get up, then sell all your animals and to people who will actually give a crap, and then I won't have to find you and yell at you. All right. The other thing is, while doing all that is going to be exceptionally important, especially on the local level. Again, one Phil, USARK is one dude. He cannot do every municipality in the entire country. We need to be the ones fighting for those. Municipalities and counties, I would say we're the ones that fight for those. We can ask for help. We should absolutely reach out for information from them and resources from Phil. But he doesn't need to fly to every 3,000 person town to fight a snake ban. Where we need him is at the state and at the federal level. So we need to work on watching state and county ourselves. And then state and federal, when it comes to helping Phil, what you can do, show up if they post that they need people to show up. And the number one thing is fund USARK. It is not, when you go to these reptile shows and they're these big things and it's all a big, bidding and people are spending tens of thousands of dollars. They're not doing that because they're rolling in cash and they're millionaires and this is just fun for them. They're doing it because that money goes to save our animals, period. And it's important. That's why guys will spend an entire weekend at a show and blow all their money at the auction, where they end up not even making anything for the weekend, but they had fun, but they supported the hobby. They supported what we do. Yeah. For a lot of us, they see that and you go, oh, there's no way I could spend 10 grand for USARK. I couldn't even donate $100. I understand that. I have a wife that's very frugal and money conscious, and I was homeless as a kid. Like, I get not having much and not having much to give. But in most people's lives, what I can say is you can sign up to be a member of USARK where you'll get the emails, you'll get notifications from them when things are happening, and it's $5 a month. I don't even know that I'd notice $5 a month coming out of my bank account anymore with all my bills and crap I have going on. But that's one less stop at a gas station or one less Starbucks. And I know you really like your Starbucks, but is one less cup of Starbucks worth keeping your animals?
Golly.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know what to say to that anymore. Like, anybody who's like, I just don't have the money to help with USARK. I'm like, you don't have $5 a month? Like,
yeah. That's
like,
find
that in my couch.
Do you have any kind of statistics as far as people that own animals, or is there any kind of statistic done with?
Yeah, and it's really sad. Are you ready?
Yeah.
There's roughly 11 million households in the United States with reptiles. 11 million households.
Do we have to get a calculator to multiply that times 5? I mean,
$55 million a year could be coming into USARK just if people who had animals did that.
That's
not even
$5 a year.
Yeah, and that's a year. That's bare minimum. If they did $5 a month, that's $600,000 a year.
Can we just
660 million? That's what it is.
Or sorry, 660 million. Yeah. Sorry, I'm totally out. 660 million. Like, that puts us. If every person gave $5 a month, that puts us 3 times bigger than the biggest one of our competitors.
Hey, and that's only $60 a year, guys.
Yeah, you spend. I don't even know if I can compare anything else I buy that comes to that little a year. Like, I think I buy more gum than that. I don't know what I can compare that I get less of. So, like, it's not much, and you don't need to do much. But me and Erica, we're in a position in our lives where we do more than that, and you can. If you can, do it. If you want to, go for it. There's nobody that's going to be like, oh, you do more, you suck. Like, it's a good thing. And if you can do more, great. Maybe you can't do $5 a month. Maybe your bills are tight or whatever, but you breed reptiles. And we were talking about this last night. How about instead when you sell an animal, 10% of it goes to USARK? You set that 10% aside. Get a jar in your room. Put it in there. Save it up over the year. Go to an auction and spend it on something, or donate it, or buy a couple T-shirts or whatever. Throw it in your bank at the end of the year and donate it through PayPal. But it wouldn't be that hard to do. And the reality is, like we were talking, 10% off an animal, dude. I'm gonna go back and forth with you on price way more than 10%. Like, most of the time, I have no problem dropping the price on an animal 25, 30, 40% at the end of a show because I want to sell it and I don't want to go home with an animal. Like, I want to make sure it gets at home. Like, if I'm willing to drop 30 or 40% to get an animal off my table, how can you really argue that I can't donate 10% to USARK? I can't do that. I mean, I'll knock off 30% for you, but I won't knock off 20 and then take 10 and give it to USARK, even though it's the same thing. Like, I don't know what to say to that. Like, these excuses, man, the excuses people have are what kill me, because at some point, you're not going to have to make excuses anymore.
Yeah, come on.
If some of the laws that are in Congress right now go through, you're not going to have to make excuses anymore because you're not going to have reptiles. You're just not going to have pets. and then you don't have to worry about saving them. And if that's your end goal, is to not have to worry about it, then keep doing what you're doing. And in 10 years, you won't have any reptiles anymore.
So that brings it pretty much home as far as like how close to home actually is this? I know we hear about bills and all this stuff, but I want to get your perspective on you being in the trenches. It's like seeing an enemy right up over the hill or something. Like, given perspective, how close to home, like, until you actually get that parameter of as far as like, oh, you can say it's important and this and that. Well, how important and in perspective is it close to home? Like,
I tell Erica all the time, if you're nervous or anxious or worried or things in our life are tense, don't worry. Lean on me. If I'm worried, then worry. Because I usually don't worry until things are pretty bad. Most of the time when we deal with laws and legislations, I'm pretty gung-ho. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to fight. That's my jam. It's what we do. I am right now too, but this one is one of the first ones that worries me. Like, it's one that scares me a little bit. And what's happening right now is our lovely competition or opposition, I guess not competition, opposition, is using COVID and the fact that it came from an animal to push legislation that gives much more power to the Lacey Act and causes the Lacey Act to become a vehicle for them to be able to shut down the entire pet industry. So let me give you a background. The Lacey Act was created, I had all the figures, I've said this a million times, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I want to say in like the 1920s. And what it was for was to stop invasive species like plants and animals from being brought into the United States and becoming invasive. Things like a lot of different plants that hurt agriculture, emerald ash borers that are, an invasive bug, carp that are in all these rivers. Like up in the upper Midwest, we have grass carp. If you drive your boat down a river, you ever seen the videos? They're like 3-foot fish that jump out of the water and kill you. Like, it's crazy. And those are all invasive. So the Lacey Act was created to try and stop that. From happening. So over time, as most things do in politics, it started to get kind of used for other stuff. And it's abused a little bit. So there's a couple things that are coming with this that's gonna make it really, it could be bad. I'm slightly on the hopeful side that the bill won't pass because the Democratic Party has put so much other stuff in the bill that has nothing to do with anything. I think it'll be too hard to pass. But what's happening right now is the HEROES Act has already out. It's the House or the Senate. It's one way or the other. I apologize. I believe it's passed through the Senate and it's going to go to the House. And what the HEROES Act is, you've seen it on TV with everything with the COVID and the stimulus. It's a stimulus bill. It's the Democrats' version of a stimulus bill to push stimulus checks to people to help small businesses. All of that is super good. And I don't think there's many people against that kind of stuff right now, especially right now. The problem is, and why I hate politics and why I hate that they can do this, that bill, that's the majority of it. There's also a ton of other crap that has nothing to do with it in there. And one part of it is between like pages 1635 and 1642 in an 1800-page document. It's 7 pages. And what it does is it changes the definition of injurious invasive species, and it undoes the interstate transport. It undoes the lawsuit that USARK did against Fish and Wildlife dealing with the Lacey Act and interstate transport. So what that is the Lacey Act only affects incoming animals and plants into the country. It only affects importation. It doesn't affect me sending you a Burmese python or you sending me one from another state. When they passed the big snake ban and they got it was Burmese pythons, Indian pythons, rock pythons, retics, and anacondas added to the Lacey Act. Yeah. When that happened, they added into it that they were banning interstate transport.
That's it.
So that's what the USARK lawsuit was. It wasn't them suing to get those animals off the Lacey Act. It was suing Fish and Wildlife about the Lacey Act because there was a precedent in I want to say in 1988, a different lawsuit where Fish and Wildlife said the Lacey Act does not have the power to ban interstate transport. So there was a precedent that they can't do that. So USARK fought them and got that taken off. So they weren't allowed to ban interstate transport. So it opened up Burmese and retics and all that stuff to continue to be shipped around the country and open that industry back up. They still can't come into the country, so we still can't import all the cool pied berms and things like random stuff that's popping up in Indonesia and Europe. We still can't do that, but we can send animals around now, and that's awesome. What the first part of this bill does is it undoes that, and it gives the Lacey Act, it puts into the Lacey Act the power to stop interstate transport. So that's number one. Now realize that means anything on the Lacey Act. So a couple of years ago when B-sal chytrid, salamander chytrid fungus popped up in the Netherlands, they created an emergency condition where they put 200 newts and salamanders on the Lacey Act to stop them from coming into the country, to hopefully stop B-sal chytrid from getting to the U.S. It's frustrating because, like I said earlier, with salamanders, I want to work with fire salamanders. Most of them come out of Europe. Now I can't. But at the same time, the conservation side of me was kind of like, okay, this might be an okay move, because if B-sal chytrid got to the U.S., the United States has the largest population and diversity of salamanders of anywhere in the world, and we could lose all of them. So that's why that happened. But those are also on the Lacey Act. So interstate transport had stopped for those too. Once USARK won the lawsuit, the interstate transport part went away. We can send salamanders and newts. We can send big snakes around. We just can't import them. So again, this changes that and goes back to banning interstate transport, and you can't cross state lines with them. That means for me, I live on the border of Illinois. I work in Wisconsin. If I have a Burmese python and I want to bring it up to Wisconsin to take it to work, I can't. If I cross the state line, it could be a $250,000 fine and 10 years in prison and a felony. If I am in the Army or the military and I'm moving bases, I can't take my snake with me. If my vet happens to be on the other side in Indiana, about an hour away, I can't take it to my vet because I can't cross state lines.
Yeah, so you're going to show up with the animal and be like, oh, we can take care of it. Here's your fine.
Yeah, basically, it can be crazy. It could be anything. Like, so legally, they can't do that. So that interstate transport thing is a big deal. The other part of it is if more things are added to the Lacey Act in the future, say diamondback terrapins got added to the Lacey Act. That means every diamondback terrapin breeder in the country, you can't send your animals out of your state. Your market for those animals is now what you can sell in the state you live in, and that's it. And there's no way to get around it. That's it. So the conservation, the breeding, changing bloodlines, things like that all goes away. And things that are being put on the Lacey Act, a lot of it's not even native or anything like that. So like it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to change anything. Even the Burmese pythons. If somebody I have a friend in Seattle that breeds berms and retics. If he sends me a berm in Wisconsin, that has nothing to do with Florida or the native habitat or they can't live up here or there. So it doesn't really make sense, and it's an overreach of government. The other part, there's two other parts. So that's part one. Part one is they undo the interstate transport, which is scary, which could really isolate all of us. But if it goes into place, the immediate consequences will just be the salamanders and newts and the big snakes. Now that's not okay, but for the amount of animals that are kept and the diversity of species, those would be the only ones affected. It won't be everything yet. The other thing it does is it changes the definition of an injurious species to any species that can transfer a pathogen from the animal to humans. I don't know if you guys know a lot about reptiles. Salmonella is in all of them. That's a pathogen that can be transferred to humans. Animal rights groups could use that as a way to push to get every species of reptile in the country added to the Lacey Act as an injurious species. If that happens, that means the only animals you'll ever be able to work with forever are species you can buy in your own state. All pet stores will stop having reptiles unless they can buy them locally from people, because they won't be able to get them from major distributors in Florida and Ohio who supply most of the major chain stores and pet stores. Won't be able to do that anymore. And slowly the entire pet reptile industry will dissolve into nothing. Because the reality is, if I, as a supplier, as somebody who makes caging and things like that, if pet stores stop carrying live animals because they can't really get them, then people aren't able to buy live animals. And if they're not able to buy live animals, then they're not going to buy enclosures. They don't buy enclosures. I have nothing to do. And eventually my business, the Zilla as a business, goes away. And when Zilla, and then Zoomed goes away, and Exoterra goes away. And then you no longer have the ability to keep these animals because you don't have an access to the equipment because it doesn't exist anymore. So it slowly is the dissolving of all of the things that we do. And everybody should be scared. That won't happen immediately, but it could. And the thing is, it's not just reptiles. Cats can transfer toxoplasmosis to people. There's so many. There's horses can transfer pathogen. There's not many animals you can keep in captivity that won't transfer some sort of pathogen.
Yeah.
So the reality is that it really opens it up to hurting us a lot, and all pet keepers. The third thing is another bad part of this. It gives Fish and Wildlife 90 days to respond to any inquiries or lawsuits to add animals to the Lacey Act. Gives them 90 days. After the 90 days, they can be sued. They have a lot of penalties and things. They have a lot of things that are negative. They don't want to pass that 90 days. What happens is animal rights groups like Defenders of Wildlife and HSUS use all of their insane amount of attorneys, hundreds of attorneys, to draw up and send in to have them add an animal to the Lacey Act, but they do it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So in a week, they'll get 600 requests, and they have to reply to all of them in 90 days. What ends up happening is they're so overloaded that they just buckle and give in and add them because they can't possibly get through it. And because of the way that timing works, animal rights groups know that, and that's how they're winning this battle. Especially if this goes through with a 90-day reply limit, they're going to get screwed. They're going to get super overwhelmed, and they're just going to start adding stuff because they can't even get to it to make a decision.
So you even said that one thing was just like, what, 1,700, 1,800 pages. And
yeah,
and that's tip of the iceberg. So with Phil, how much of a team does he actually have to be able to, is it just mainly attorneys?
It's mainly Phil, and they work with a law firm, and they have a couple attorneys that they use for this stuff. But it's really Phil, man. It's kind of crazy. And we're talking about, Fish and Wildlife Fish and Wildlife as an organization can't catch up to what they're doing. And we're relying on one dude to fix the world. We need 10 Phils. If we want 10 Phils, we need to make USARK 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
The bigger we make USARK, the bigger hammer we swing, and the bigger hammer we swing, the bigger options we have to knock this stuff down and do more with it. You're never going to get, like, you work out, man. You're never going to get strong lifting 1 pound weights. you got to swing a bigger weight, man. And people need to do this. We need to start realizing that your donation to USARK, I don't even like calling it a donation because it's not a donation to me.
Oh, it's doing your part, man.
Right, donations are what I give to, like, people who are in need. I'm not donating to USARK because people are in need. I'm paying my dues as a reptile keeper and what I believe I need to pay to support the hobby I love to keep it around. And that's how people need to look at it. And with an engineering background, there's organizations I've been part of where dues are hundreds, thousands of dollars a year to be part of that organization, to be accredited, and to fight for the things we needed as engineers, to safety, things like that. Yeah. We paid thousands of dollars just for my job, just to keep accreditation and things like that.
Yeah.
All we want from you guys is $5 once a month. That's it. $60 a year to help fund an organization that is the only one out there that is working to stop your animals. So your animals from being taken away.
Yeah, I don't think you can get any more,
Yeah,
I
try to stay nice about it, but I'm really starting to lose my ability to be calm and collected when it comes to this.
And I think, with all that, if you're still on the fence with everything that has been discussed, then you should really do some heart searching.
Yeah.
Because if you're still on the fence, then then you really need to do some more research because it's pretty much black or white. And if you,
the reality is, if you're on the fence, you don't understand what's at risk here.
Yeah.
And if you did I mean, is Fish and Wildlife going to drive tanks down the street and kick in your door and take your snakes and euthanize them? No, they're not. But again, what do you think it's going to be like if you have an animal pass away? Reptiles are god-awful animals for being able to keep alive sometimes because they just die for no reason out of nowhere. Like, hey, I'm totally happy and healthy and breeding and I'm eating this rodent. No, I'm dead. Never mind. Like, it's infuriating. But like, what if? Let's look at it this way. Let's say, Ed, you've got you hatch out some crazy diamondback terrapin locality that you're the only dude in the country working with it, and then a couple other people throughout the United States, right? Now, if this goes through, you have no access to any other bloodlines to keep that species or locality or subspecies existing. You'll have no other bloodlines. So you can't swap bloodlines with people to keep those endangered and rare species viable in captivity. You can't work with a new species. What if your heart is somebody who getting into the hobby, you work with leopard geckos and your heart just blows up and you want to work with day geckos. And you live in Rhode Island. Guess what? The chances of some dude living in Rhode Island and being another day gecko nerd and having all the species you want and genetic bloodlines for you is this big. Yeah. It's not going to happen. And when it doesn't, you just have no options then. When this goes through, you can't get it. You can't have it. What about, or like the species that we work with, like some of the monitors and Timor pythons? They've been hatched by 6 people in the United States ever. We're working on trying to be 7 or maybe 7 or 8 by the time we get it. But if I need new bloodlines, I have 1 male right now and 3 females. I need 3 more males. If I can't ship them in, I know there's nobody in the state that's keeping them. I know that nobody's breeding them. And if they're not breeding them and hatching them, I can't get them imported because I can't get them here. So, like, if anything happens to my 1 male, the opportunities I have to reproduce this really difficult, very not well kept in captivity species goes from already difficult to just not a thing. Unless one of the females just goes parthenogenic, but that's my only option. And I'd rather, like, that's a bigger long shot. I'd rather try and figure out a way to get a male and try and do this than, like, well, hopefully one of them clones themselves. Like, that's your last option.
So that actually kind of leads us to, what actually in your entire collection, what is actually your favorite? This is the part of the show, Cody, I know you like to do, you want to hit it off.
Yeah, guys. So normally we do guess that turtle. Well, today we're going to do guess that reptile. This is actually Ryan's favorite species. So let me go ahead and bring it up. And let's see if anybody can guess it. Let's see, share screen.
I would have said, like in the very beginning, you might as well just hold on to that thing and just bring it wherever you went in every room of your house.
And
so you actually have a couple of them, right?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. Me and Eric are working very, very hard to breed these, and I think we're getting close this year. Those two are really loving each other, so we're hoping that we can get those guys.
And those are full grown?
Yeah, they're full grown. They're a medium-sized lizard. They don't get very big, and they've only been coming into the country for about 10 years. So far, there's only 2 people in the United States I know that have hatched them. One of them was off of wild-caught animals that laid eggs. So they were they were captive hatched, not captive bred. And one person who has a zoo in Costa Rica just found an egg in his exhibit once and was like, "Oh, cool, crap, didn't even know you were doing anything." And so he hatched one out. This year, there's someone in Wyoming or Colorado that just got 4 eggs. And then Michael Cole out of Florida just got an egg as well. So we're getting there, but it's taken 10 years for people to get these into captivity, get them established, get them calm, work with them, and start to see eggs. Now, this kind of bounces back. These are a great species because to talk about with this, because if anything happens to our animals, I can't continue to work with this species if I can't get them into the state from other places.
Can you go ahead and tell us what species that is?
That is the spiny-necked mangrove monitor. It's Varanus spinulosus. Those guys are out of the Solomon Islands in the Pacific Ocean.
I would have How many did you say you have? 4?
We have 2 pairs right now. We've at times had up to 9 animals, but we bring in a lot of babies. They're always wild caught, so we deal with a lot of issues there. We do our best to get them going as best as we can, but we unfortunately.
Is this Ryan McVeigh or Zilla?
No, Ryan, me and Erica. So me and Erica work with those. Zilla, we have a bunch of cool stuff at Zilla, but all my favorite stuff is here because I can play with it every day. Especially now being stuck at home. Like if it was up there, it'd drive me crazy. Actually, I was up at work the other day and I was like, man, there's a couple species here I miss seeing. I might have to bring them home when nobody's looking. But no, it's just a cool species. And again, it's something that I could lose the ability to keep working with those, you know. But anyway, so we grow up babies, we keep them. We end up with a lot of males. They're very male heavy when they come in, it seems. So we've slowly found ways, and they're also extremely difficult to find the gender on them, to sex these animals. It's very, very hard. So we've slowly over the past 5 years worked out a couple ways where we're pretty close to being almost 100% accurate when we guess genders, but it takes a lot. And I never feel 100% confident until I've gotten the same result 3 or 4 times. So yeah, we're down to 2 pairs right now because the last group of babies ended up being all boys, so I don't need a ton of boys. Right. So we're still looking. Every time I see one at a show, I send a picture to Erica, and then she gives me the yes or no, and we grab it or we don't. But I just do it, and then I ask for forgiveness when I get home.
Out of curiosity, what does one of those monitors run for? Typically?
It kind of depends. When I get them from some of the importers, they're $350, maybe $400. If you see them at retail, they anywhere from $500 to $800.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty
cool. You're talking about 10% of that, and it's like,
yeah,
$35, $50, $80.
Something that you love, and it's like, if you do what you love, then it's priceless anyway. So what is a couple dollars?
Absolutely.
No, I mean, Ryan, we really appreciate you coming on and being on the show. I mean, you've been a wealth of information. We would have liked to stay at an hour, but obviously we couldn't, man. There was just no way for us to stay at an hour.
That's not even answering questions and stuff, and that's why I said, look. That's why I wanted to say early on. I was like, guys, just strap in and just tune your ear, because this is stuff that's too crucial to just pass up. So
right, and this is stuff that I want to make everybody aware and really think about this. This is not big snakes versus frogs versus turtles versus gecko keepers. This is an all or nothing thing. Like this should, if big snake people lose their ability to breed snakes and ship them across state lines, if you don't keep them, that should still hurt you. That should still hurt you. Because imagine having your animals taken away or your ability to produce animals removed from you. Put yourself in their shoes, have some empathy, and let's get to. I almost swore, sorry. Let's get together and let's fight this. Let's fight this together. There's millions of us.
With that, I wish you can kind of do like a fist bump from like a triangle phase and just be like unite,
right,
just unite kind of thing.
Where are you at? Over there.
If anything else, guys, let's. I'm still trying to. We got to lock arms. We have to lock arms.
Yeah.
Is the real. Okay, you're still trying over there.
I generally tell people, now's the time to get involved. I'll be totally honest, man. That time is long gone. You are late to the party. Get in gear. The importance of USARK is not, it's starting to get better. It's starting to become more imperative to really start supporting them. No, starting supporting them and the imperative, how important it was 10 years ago. Now you're behind the 8 ball and you're letting yourself and your friends down by not being a part of this and not standing together to fight this.
Yeah, no condemnation, but you can't. It doesn't take anyone nowadays to see what's going on in society now that it's a fight, and if you're not in the fight, then you're on the bench and you're not going to do it. You're not contributing. You're not doing anything for the future. I mean, you're talking about your children, whoever it is. You never know that one person can actually make a difference for the next generation. So
think about all the kids who start working with reptiles and go into medicine and the Venom Lab, man. I mean, Nate was a little nerdy kid that loved coral snakes, and now he produces venom for cancer research. Like, that's crazy. He wouldn't be able to get stuff to do that. That's insane. That's insane. This could stop cancer research. Like,
Yeah.
the impacts of this, it impacts everyone in some way, and it impacts our future, and it impacts our kids, and it impacts what makes me happy when I walk into that back room full of cages.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a world without the reptiles we keep and without being able to produce these, like I don't breed reptiles because I'm trying to make $1 million, because like that doesn't exist ever. Like, we do it because it's fun and it's interesting and it's exciting, and being able to reproduce these species that maybe don't even exist in the wild anymore is a privilege. This is something else that I want to make clear. This is not a right we have. This is not a constitutional amendment. This is not, this is not something that we have a constitutional right to. It's a privilege that we get to do it. And if you're not going to fight for that privilege, then you're going to lose it. It's just like I tell my kids, it's the same thing. So we need to fight together. And there's so many reasons to start really joining hands, especially right now, working together and fighting back. And I'll be honest, guys, the bills that are out there right now that are scary and that we need to be aware of and we need to be funding to fight, there's another dozen being written right now that haven't even been published. Right. There's more coming. This isn't the end of it. They're using COVID. They're using the fact that it came from a wild animal to push an animal rights agenda and scare people into basically banning pets.
Makes sense. Makes sense, unfortunately.
Well, if you can't get any closer to home, well, guess what? This is a thing that's kept you in your home.
Right.
So, Ryan, love you, brother. Appreciate you, everything you and your wife, everything do. And it's an honor to even have you and your voice and just your knowledge. And the beauty about this is that people can go back and look and hear and listen for however long. It's an archive now, and this is something that is concrete that people can't deny. It's take it what it is, and guess what? We did our part. Now it's time for you guys viewing, watching now or later to do yours.
100%, man. All right, guys, this has been What the Shell podcast, and Shell, and we're out, man.
All right, brother.
Later, guys.